Watch me save my client from their online coaching check-ins in literally one video. So my name's Matt. I automate fitness businesses, saving them a bunch of time and building digital leverage in their businesses. And today I'm going to be going over what one of the biggest bane of any coach's existence is, which is online check-ins. So online check-ins, the process of going through the client's data from the week, their check-in response, and providing any improvements for the following week or any adjustments that need to be made for the client. So let me just quickly run through. This client signed an NDA, so I can't share their business with you, but I'm going to go through it anyway from a conceptual point of view, which is they're happy for me to do. So this client, their current process was this. So this is before we changed it. They open up Trainerize, they search for the client, they look at their body data, so their metrics that the person has inputted over the week. They bring up their check-in form responses, which is just a Google form. They analyze the data, so they spend 5 to 10 minutes looking at their information of what the client said, their sleep, their whatever it might be, and they then record a Loom to go over it. So I'm going to break down each stage. So this takes 1 minute. This takes 30 seconds. This took anywhere from 5 to 7 minutes. And let's just make this a bit bigger. So bring up check-in responses. This part was like 1 to 2 minutes. Analyze data. So this would take 5 to 10 again minutes, and record Loom to go over it. This was usually sitting between 10 to 15 minutes. So 10 to 15 minute Loom. So if you look at this, let's say we'll do the lower end just to be conservatives. 10, 15, 16, 21, 22, 22 and a half minutes low end time, 22 and 1/2 minutes. So that's the lower side, and then the higher side. Higher side is 15, 25, 26, 26, 27, 28, 30, 31, 32, 33, 33, 34 and 30 seconds. So 34 and 1/2 minutes, right? And this client has had at the time 88 clients when I started working with them, right? This is just insane. So 88 clients, their check-ins were spread across multiple days. So 88 times 22 is 1,936 minutes. So 1,936 minutes divided by 60, just 32 hours to complete their check-ins every week, right? So that's the lower side. And then if we do the higher side, because should draw a law of averages here. So 34 minutes times 88 is just 2,992. 92 divided by 60, which is 49 hours, right? So it's literally impossible. The way that they were doing it to get them done every week. They were working literally like 70-hour weeks to like get all this done, and then do sales calls, and then make content and all of the stuff, right? So this is a lot. There's a lot of hours here that'll be put into their coaching. So what we had to do wasn't just build a system around this, because if we built a system around this, it would still be inefficient because it still takes too long. And this is not the optimal way to provide coaching feedback to clients. Now, Loom is a blessing and a curse. It allows you to convey a lot of information. And if you give your clients this, they'll expect it every week, and then they'll look forward to having it. However, it doesn't actually, unless you're like a high level coach, like you're doing bodybuilding or like powerlifting, it's not really needed. At the end of the day, the thing that gets the person results is accountability and following a plan. If they do that, you and I both know they will get to their results, right? So sending them a 15-minute Loom for them to go over every Monday isn't actually going to help them. If anything, it's going to hinder them and confuse them. So what you need to do is look at this process and see how it can be pivoted. Now, instead of doing Looms, this is the solution that I did for the client, but I'm going to go through some other solutions as well, how you can improve your check-ins. So the first thing that we did was send the client information from, I spelled that wrong. Oh no, you're going to see all my answers. Send client information from form to email summarized via AI prompt. Now, what we did was we looked at the client's. I'm going to show you this little process here. We looked at the client's looms. So we took their loom transcripts, and we fed them into Claude and said, give us a prompt based on how this person responds to fitness check-ins, right? And what that did, it gave us a very long prompt of how this person addresses each point. We had to give Claude quite a few transcripts to get it good. However, the benefit of them doing so many check-ins is they built a system around it. So the way that they broke down their check-ins was pretty much the same every single time. So we said to Claude, give us the template of the check-in, right? So that we can take that information and feed that through a prompt. So every time that the person fills out their check-in form, which is this here, brings up their check-in form responses, and they analyze the data. This is now done with the information of the coach in 0.5 of a second. Now, we did have to make some changes to their form. So instead of just looking, opening Trainer Eyes, looking for the client in Trainer Eyes and looking at their body data, we added in the metrics of the week as a whole into their check-in form. So previously the check-in form was how's your sleep? How was your mood? Were there any challenges this week? Now it starts with what was your body weight at the start of the week? What was your body weight at the end of the week? How many centimeters were lost? And just any other questions that might be relevant to the biometrics, right? Because the client, it's good for them to write that information down rather than just logging it, right? Because it forces them to reflect, but also lets you process that information away from Trainer Eyes, which is important. So what we was doing here was we're sending the client information from that form through an AI model, which was Claude for this example, and the email summary was going to the coach. So now, instead of having to do these first 4 steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, they can just go straight to the information in their inbox, right? And this worked well for them because they liked email. So after I go through this, I'm going to go through an alternative to this, but this is just an example. So actually, it's the first 5 steps because they no longer have to analyze the data. They don't have to say, okay, what did the person do well? What did they do bad? They were able to get this information sent. So off the jump, conservative, 6, 11, you're saving 12 and a half minutes. And then for the higher end, 10, 11, 18, 19, almost 20 minutes as well. So already, if you looked at this is crazy. Already, if you look at the time saved, you're already saving 50% of the check-in time. And if you're doing 88 clients and it was the total of 34 minutes, you're already saving half of that, which is what, 14, 15, 16 hours worth of time. Crazy. So the next step was draft a response to be shared back to the client. So with the automated summary that came through to the coach, the way that information is delivered to the coach isn't digestible for the client. So what we did was in that same email, we took their example responses to from the Loom as well. So with the first half of the Loom was analytics, going through the data. The second half was what they would actually say back to the client. So we took those responses, fed that into the model as well, and drafted that in the email back to the coach. So they then had a copy and paste that they could just send back to the client with some minor tweaks. Now, the reason you need minor tweaks is because sometimes AI goes rogue and it doesn't give you exactly what you want every single time. And the way that you can increase how it gives you better results is be less fluffy and be more analytical with your coaching. So more just these are the numbers, this is what's required, and go, instead of being hey babe, blah 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 about your coaching. Instead, become more analytical about the check-in response. What that allows you to do is automate more of it. So once we had that drafted response, we then sent it via email. So for this coach, they used to do a Loom and they used to do all of this stuff, right? This ends up taking them less than 2 minutes to complete a check-in, which is just nuts, right? So less than 2 minutes to review the information, send an email. The biggest issue that the client had with transitioning to this is making sure their clients actually bought into the process. So what this did, right, is because it freed them up with check-ins, it gave them more time to speak to the clients like during the day. Because their days weren't just filled with check-ins now, they are talking to them more, right? And even though like when you automate a task, you should be able to like either look at the available time as like free time and be like, cool, I'm going to go to the shops, or it could be replaced with higher leverage activities. In this specific situation, the higher leverage activity is talking to the clients more because it creates more accountability for them. So having genuine conversations, they are more than happy to spend, the extra, 20 to 30 hours a week talking to clients, which they don't actually have to do because the time that it takes to actually speak to a client every day is less than the check-in time. So they're not going to be spending the same amount of time. But the hardest thing was getting those clients to accept the new check-in format. And the way that they positioned it was, at the end of the day, what's going to get you results is following the plan, staying accountable to it, and having someone in your corner daily. 10 minutes of motivation on a Monday isn't going to set you up for the week. However, consistent conversation across the week is actually going to help you more than just a loop. So they lost a couple of clients in the meantime, but now has been able to scale. Get this. To 150 clients with an average check-in time of 2 to 3 minutes, right? And because their check-ins are spread out across a couple of days, and they're able to message people back and forth, they're like, oh great, now I've saved time. I've delivered a better service, but I've created more problems because I've taken on more clients. So now their next challenge is how can they scale from 150 to 200 clients, and they fluctuate on this 150 number. Like it's not 100% like solid on there, but they're charging about 100 AUD a week. So what's that? 150 minus 88 is 62 client increase, which is $6,200 additional per week and 24,800 per month. 24,800 per month. So if we look at this now, so 150 clients at, let's say 3 minutes per check-in is 450 minutes. So 450 divided by 60 minutes is 7.5 hours. 7.5 hours for check-ins, right? And you know what the crazy part is now? Now that they've done it this way, they have a system to delegate this entirely to a virtual assistant. So now that 7.5 hours, let's break down the numbers even further. The coach can charge $100 per hour, $100 to $150 per hour, one-on-one coaching, right? So let's say the hour is worth $100. So right now, though, that 7.5 hours costs, it essentially costs them $750 to do their check-ins, right? Whereas it used to cost them a lot more. But $750 of their time to do their check-ins can be delegated to a virtual assistant for, anywhere from, let's say, like a real modest $10 per hour, costing them to like run through and make the changes. Like you need to do some training, whatever, but $10 per hour to complete check-ins is what? 10 times 7.5, which is $75 per week on check-ins, right? So this is just like how you break this down and scale coaching businesses is based on numbers and it's based on time. So if you can create this digital leverage, you are only going to continue to grow. Now, I said at the beginning that there are other ways that you can do this process instead of email. So I'm going to show you that to you really quickly. So we're going to say Savior Part 2. And this is what I've been thinking about a little bit more recently, is other ways to do this that isn't email, because some people don't check email, right? So you can do WhatsApp, Savior. So if we just, sorry, I have my camera right in front of my screen because I prefer this angle, but it gets in the way. So instead of doing this, let's just put this here. So send client information from form to email summarized via AI prompt. That's the same because the coach will still do the same part here. Draft response back to be shared to client. And literally the difference is send via WhatsApp. So if you send it via WhatsApp and you change this drafted response to a WhatsApp template to be shared back to the client and you send it via WhatsApp, it will just be drafted for a shorter message that isn't a loom. So sorry, it isn't a email. So that's one way to do it. And then obviously, if you just use the internal Trainerize application, bring this over here. You could literally do the same thing in Trainerize. So TZ Savior, and then send via TZ. Now the thing is, right, with this one, you can actually take it a step further. If you're on the studio plan of Trainerize, you can set up an approval workflow to have the information sent to you from the check-in form, draft responses to you via something like Slack, to be then shared back to the client automatically. So back to client automatically. And then you delete this part. So what happens is you end up getting like a bunch of just Slack messages with these draft check-ins for each client. So it'll be like, the first part will be like name of client is Joe Blogs. And then part 2 will be like their drafted check-in response. And then you can just like respond to an emoji and approve that or deny it and then make changes to it. This one takes a lot more in terms of automation and it's probably a step up from these ones, but it is possible. So you can integrate that to the point where you're just like approving check-ins. So I hope you guys found this beneficial. I will do some more videos like this of me like fixing my client stuff. But I hope you found it enjoyable to watch and hope it gave you some good ideas. If you want me to do it for you, just book in with me via my website. I've just made some changes to the website as well. So there's like a video going through of how I do what I do. So if you are after more information, you can go there as well. So I'll speak to you guys soon. Bye for now.